I'm Jessica Lombard, Associate Superintendent.
And I'm Don Drizel, President of the Board of Education. And this is Huntley 158 Today.
Don, while we're still in the middle of the 17-18 school year, it's time we're already starting to plan for the next school year.
Yep, there's a lot of planning involved.
Well, today we have a special guest with us. We have Adam Zehr, who is our Assistant Superintendent from HR. So welcome, Adam.
Thank you.
You've been in the district for a few years in different roles before taking on the role of Assistant Superintendent. Could you tell us a little bit about the other roles you've held here in the district?
Yeah, I came to the district a few years ago. I was originally the assistant principal at Marlow Middle School for a year, and then I took over the principalship at Marlow for 3 years. And then this position came open here in district office, and I showed interest in that and was awarded this position in HR.
Tell us a little bit about your position in HR. What do you do and what's involved?
Sure. As you go through the year, it's kind of cyclical, and then also as you start the day, you never know what you're going to get. But we help employees get enrolled in their health insurance benefits to kind of kick the year off. We deal with the hiring and the recruiting, so pretty much everything under the sun. We view our department as a service to the district. So we are helping folks, like I said, with benefits. We're helping them to understand paychecks, anything that comes their way. So we're kind of a jack of all trades in our department when it comes to servicing the district.
You talked about hiring and recruiting, and here in McHenry County, District 158 is the second largest employer in the county. How big of a job is that with the recruiting? How much time does that take, and is that what most of your emphasis is on?
The hiring and recruiting is year-round in an organization this large. Most of the time we have our teachers and administrators ready to go for the start of the school year, but when you look at the organization as a whole and you're hiring secretaries, bus drivers, cooks, that is a year-round process because when those folks leave jobs, it isn't always with the beginning and the end of the school year. So we constantly have openings and are constantly looking to bring individuals on board. When you look at the teaching component, that is really ramping up right now, where we're looking to fill teaching positions based on retirements or people possibly leaving. So we do get out to recruiting fairs every now and again across the state, and also obviously we advertise online quite aggressively to get people to come to our district.
What are some of the more frequent openings in the district?
So right now we do have openings for our dual language program, so individuals who are endorsed bilingual. We're starting our dual language program next year. It's kicking off, so we're looking for multiple teachers to come into that role. So sometimes that endorsement is a little more difficult for folks to come by and to attain, so that can be a competitive market. When you get into the high school realm, sometimes some of those specialty positions can become difficult to fill as you get into some of the math and science positions. But right now, we're in pretty good shape in those spots.
What type of qualities or characteristics do you look for some of our employees? And why don't we look at that when you break it up into two different parts? Maybe our certified, our teaching staff and our administrators, and then our non-certified staff as well.
So when you're looking at the certified teachers and administrators, we're obviously looking for individuals that have that content background, that can be leaders, that can do what's best for students at the end of the day. So we want those teachers to come in, we want them to be enthusiastic, we want them to be innovative, we want them to provide students with different opportunities in the classroom. If we switch over to the administrator side of that, we are looking for individuals who know how to lead others and can lead towards the goals of the district. So breaking it down as you're hiring in our HESPA category, our non-certified staff members, a lot of those same qualities come through also. They're coming from a little bit different industry when you're looking at hiring those individuals, but we want people that are very service-oriented in terms of taking care of the customer, which our customer in this case are the students and the parents of the community.
How does a candidate, how does an individual find out about openings in our district?
So most of our positions are posted on our district website. So we go through an application that's generated by Frontline, our company that runs our online applications. We have shifted over to the newspaper a little bit this year when we had some bus driver openings and found that to be very successful also. But if you go to district158.org under Human Resources, we have all of our openings posted there.
Maybe you can tell us a little bit about the steps. What goes into hiring an individual?
Absolutely. So, all of our positions get posted. We have a certain amount of time that those positions are posted. So during that time, we're collecting applications. So we have hiring managers throughout the districts, whether there are principals, assistant principals, directors, all the way up to myself. We review those applications. If it is a large position with multiple applicants, we actually do an online screener called Spark Hire to help us narrow down the applicants who would come for a face-to-face interview. So once it's time for a face-to-face interview, our hiring managers then get together a team of individuals for the interviewing process. Once they've narrowed it down to a candidate, they will then do a reference background check and make a recommendation to district office for someone who they're going to or they would like to hire. That paperwork is then reviewed by myself, sometimes associate superintendents, and then the superintendent. And then we go back, make an official job offer, and there's some other steps that the employee has to come through with drug screening, background checks before they can actually become an employee here in the district. And then we take them through an orientation process. New teachers come to us early in the year, and we do a bus tour to get them oriented.
The famous bus tour.
The famous bus tour to get them familiar with the campuses in the district. So that's hiring in a nutshell. So it can take a little bit depending on what the position is. When you're going out and recruiting and depending what you're posting, sometimes we'll get 100 applicants for a job, sometimes we'll get 5. It just depends on what position we're looking at.
So I'm going to ask a typical question that we ask of candidates. Why Huntley? Why would people want to come to our district?
So we are on the edge when it comes to everything, essentially. We are a district that's moving forward, a growing district. There's always new and exciting ideas. So if individuals want to be on the forefront of change and things that are really new in education, this is definitely the place to be right now.
We mentioned how large a district are, how large an employer we are as a district, about 1,400 employees, I believe the second largest in McHenry County. How does that play into your educational background? Because now you're an HR director, in a sense, for a large organization and maybe less of an emphasis on, the teaching. So how does that present a challenge for you, and what do you like about that?
So in terms of, the educational background, I came up as a social studies teacher and an administrator, and I think a lot of those skills carry over in the HR department. Just because it's all about people at the end of the day. So you're dealing with different topics though. So as you learn those topics and as you become educated on those topics, you're able to help people out. So in a school organization, once again, it all comes back to what's best for the students. So as long as you keep that focus, you're able to deal with the different topics that come across your plate.
Well, Adam, thank you so much for joining us today, sharing information a little bit about how people can look towards joining our wonderful family here in Huntley. So
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us at Huntley 158 today.
Where it's all students, always.